The Supreme Court ruled 5-3 that Texas's omnibus bill from 2013 that restricts abortion is not constitutional. This is a very, very big win for those who are in favor of reproductive rights. So the majority opinion, written by Justice Stephen Breyer, struck down the legislative mandating clinics have admitting privileges with local hospitals and requiring that they meet the same standards as surgical centers. So let's talk about that a little bit. When it comes to the admitting privileges, the idea is, well, if something goes terribly wrong with this abortion, those working at the clinic will be able to admit the individual into a hospital, which, first of all, nothing goes terribly wrong with abortions. In fact, I'll give you statistics a little later in the story. But secondly, since you're in the state of Texas, where abortion is very controversial and it's a red state, a lot of hospitals refuse admitting privileges. So that would close about 3/4 of the remaining clinics in Texas. It would be a nightmare. Now, Justice Stephen Breyer writes the following: "We conclude that neither of these provisions offers medical benefits sufficient to justify the burdens upon access that each imposes. The restrictions placed a substantial obstacle in the path of women seeking a pre-viability abortion." Now, back in 1992, the issue of placing an undue burden on women was something that was talked about by the Supreme Court. And now, Supreme Courts have had to decide what it means to be an undue burden or create an undue burden. And these two elements of the anti-abortion law do pose an undue burden.
So the Supreme Court often makes balancing act decisions. So they say, okay, on the one side you've got undue burdens. On the other side, you might have benefits that come from those restrictions. So let's hear you out, the state of Texas. So tell us all the benefits you get from this piece of legislation mandating that they be able to go to the hospital. So is there a lot of abortions that go wrong? What are the percentages? Obviously, it happens from time to time, but what are the percentages? Is it a real problem, et cetera? And the state of Texas comes in and goes, because they don't have the numbers. They don't have the facts.
They don't. In fact, I think the biggest blow the Supreme Court gave to the state of Texas was about how there are cases, well, it's not just cases, the numbers indicate that childbirth leads to more human deaths than having an abortion. So childbirth is actually 14 times more likely to cause death than getting an abortion. However, if you choose to give birth in your own home with the help of a midwife, that's legal, right? So if the real concern here is about the health of the mother, which we all know it's not really about the health of the mother, then you would be worried about people giving birth at home with a midwife. But that's not what they're worried about. They're really worried about reproductive rights and reproductive freedoms, and they want to do whatever they can to stop those.